Oh hey, didn't see you there. Welcome to the super awesome fun show for families. We're gonna help you parents connect to all your kids out there by doing fun activities together. So for our first fun activity, we're gonna make some barbecue. Now first you're gonna need to collect your ingredients. The first thing you're gonna need is a blunt object, preferably a hammer. I like using this bed end or whatever. I found it on the ground, it works perfectly for victims. And you're also gonna want a very sharp kitchen knife.
If Dominic Toretto has taught us anything, it's that family is important. And this is the case even in horror movies. From old slashers like Friday the 13th to more atmospheric slow burners like The Witch, it's bound to be an important theme. Trying to address familial ties in every horror movie is difficult. There are some where family is important to defeating whatever threat is at play, but I wanted to focus on movies that challenge those conventions. Today we'll be looking at the family and how it breeds generational monstrosity in the movies The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Hereditary. For those unfamiliar with Tobe Hooper's horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it follows a group of young adults making their way to an old family estate. After exploring a little too far off the beaten path, the group discovers the chainsaw-wielding Leatherface and his family of cannibals who kill, eat, and repurpose the body parts of those who come into their grasp. Leatherface is an interesting horror movie villain. He's big, monstrous, primitive, and violent, yet he seems sympathetic as well. Due to his circumstances and relationship to the family unit, Leatherface is monstrous, but perhaps not by choice. Let's talk about one of his most important tools, the slaughterhouse hammer. At the beginning of the film, as the victims are driving by the old slaughterhouse, the character Franklin recounts the tool's original use. He says cows used to be killed by being bashed in the head, but now they use a spike gun because it's more ethical. Despite the hammer being labeled as dated, Leatherface, the youngest member of the cannibal family, still uses it. This is likely due to the influence of his older family members who once worked at the slaughterhouse and are seen using it throughout the movie. Now, would it be better if Leatherface was blasting 20-somethings with an air gun like he was John Wick? No, definitely not, but I think the hammer can be seen as a metaphor for all the other negative qualities passed down by his family. The family unit he is surrounded by and how they taught him to kill and eat has made him more monstrous than he may have been otherwise if he was away from their control. The extent that Leatherface is morphed by his family isn't just learned, it is also possibly genetic. In an essay, Is Leatherface a Sympathetic Villain, written on the online blog Uncle Ron's Corner, Ron writes about the scene where Leatherface is sitting by the window. We notice that his teeth are mangled and he reacts like someone who doesn't work with full mental capacity, possibly from generations of inbreeding. If this is true, it's a decision made by his dad completely outside of his control. Through the genesis of the cannibal family itself, Leatherface is born a monstrosity. While the Texas Chainsaw Massacre showed us the product of family-bred monstrosity, analysis of Hereditary shows us the process. The movie follows the Grahams, who demographically are the most cookie-cutter American family. A husband, a wife, 2 kids, a dog, and a middle-class home to boot. But after the death of Ellen, the family's grandmother, things start going wrong for the Grahams. There's an unexpected death of their youngest daughter, Charlie, and as Annie, the mother, discovers, they are at the center of a cult's plot to have their family's son, Peter, possessed. The movie ends with the cult fulfilling their plan, sacrificing the family members and having the demon Payman possess Peter. While the threat is first thought to be an external source, at the movie's climax it is revealed that Ellen was an important part of the cult and had been grooming her family for Payman all along. Once again, the source of monstrosity in a character is passed down from generation to another generation, but this time it manifests in possession. Ellen plants black herbs in one of her children's baby bottles to ready them for the ritual, and is even explained to have caused her son to kill himself because she also attempted to put Payman inside his body as well. Peter, being cast from his body and turned into Hellspawn, was outside of his control and was entirely based on his familiar relationship to Ellen. So in both cases, monstrous characters are shaped to be that way by their families. This is interesting in these movies because family is often linked with normalcy. While normalcy is a pretty subjective term, I tend to like how film critic and scholar Robin Wood defines it: conformity to dominant social norms. Family in this sense is the ultimate normalcy, since it is one of the most widely accepted social norms, not just in the US where these movies take place, but around the world. Horror movies force us to confront normalcy in ways that are uncomfortable. Sure, it's normal to be in a family, but is there anything else at play? In what ways are we affected by our family's decisions? And how will my parenting affect the future generation? Are we capable of creating monstrosity, and to what extent? Though we may not turn our kids into Leatherface or of a cult leader grandma, movies like this remind us to be mindful of family and to be cautious of the normalcy that the concept is so closely related to.
everywhere, girl, yeah. New so cold, raw, but I know my heart gets colder. I put on a mask, leave the house like it's October. Does it feel good when you know you're getting older? I don't wanna suck, I'd rather put on a controller. And my new fan, bet they used to be a stroller. Oh, bitch, forgot everything I told her. No, no t-shirt, we gon'